is Ellis. I'm the Executive Director of the Indianapolis Propoleum. Welcome and thank you for joining us this evening for our May Wright Sewall Leadership Award event. The Indianapolis Propoleum is a nonprofit organization dedicated to women's leadership, arts and culture, and historic preservation. Programming at the Propoleum includes the Marilyn K. Glick Women's Enrichment Series, featuring women in Indiana who have broken the mold. We also have programming to highlight Indiana authors, musical performances from our Porch Concert series to chamber concerts featuring principals from the ISO, and theatrical productions both in the Mansion and in the Carriage House. This year, we've also introduced our Historic Neighborhoods of Indianapolis series to commemorate the bicentennial of Indianapolis. And of course, we have our May Wright Sewall Leadership Award, which brings you all here this evening. Each year, we select a woman or women who exude the spirit of May Wright Sewall to receive this award. And that is no small feat. May Wright Sewall was a teacher, a suffragist, organizer, and international peace advocate. Sewall understood the importance of civic engagement and a collective voice. She founded not only the Indianapolis Propoleum, but also the Indianapolis Women's Club, the Indianapolis Equal Suffrage Society, the Art Association of Indiana, which is today Newfield, and what is now the Heron School of Art. She and her husband founded the Girls Classical School of Indianapolis, believing that Midwestern girls deserved an Ivy League education. She also helped found the AAUW, American Association of University Women, the National Council of Women, and the International Council of Women. She was president of the National American Woman Suffrage Association and the International Congress of Women, as well as the 1893 World's Congress of International Women at the Columbian World's Fair, which had representatives from 126 women's organizations, 13 countries, 333 speakers, and attendance of over 150,000 women. And we haven't even covered her work as an international peace advocate as a representative on Henry Ford's peace ship. So when we say that a woman or women exude the spirit of May Wright Sewall, we're talking about someone who is extraordinary. And our 2021 May Wright Sewall Leadership Award recipients are both extraordinary women. We're so happy that you can join us tonight as we honor the 2020 recipients of the May Wright Sewall Leadership Award, Cordelia Lewis-Burks and Sallie Rowland. And now I'd like to introduce Ronnie Embry.
Good evening. I'm Ronnie Embry, and I'm the chairperson of the May Wright Sewall Award Leadership Committee. And it is a great honor tonight to chair this. We had several names submitted, and there were two women that clearly came to the top this year. The other women were wonderful, but these two women just exuded the spirit of May Wright Sewall. I would like to thank our committee members of Rose Warnicki, Sherry Watkins, Peg Kennedy, Marjorie Keenley, Joanne Solomon, Melissa Smith, Betsy Van Horn, Liz and Lorianne, our staff members who were great support for us throughout this process. The women have been fabulous. I also would like to thank our sponsors and all those that have contributed to make tonight possible. We're so very sorry you could not be at our beautiful mansion tonight to celebrate and with fellowship with these beautiful women and their accomplishments. We just, as a chairperson, did not feel it was safe with the COVID rise. So hopefully when we can get back together, you'll be able to join us again, and we will definitely invite these two wonderful recipients so we can highlight them again when we have that honor, but we wanted to keep everyone safe. One of the people that have had influence in this area that also represents where the Propoleum is a man that Miss Cordelia Lewis-Burks knows a little bit about. She's worked with him closely on things, and he would like to welcome you tonight, and that's Congressman Andre Carson, and I would like to introduce his video, please.
This is Congressman Andre Carson. I am extremely pleased to congratulate Madam Cordelia Lewis-Burks and Madam Sallie Rowland for being honored as the 2021 May Wright Sewall Leadership Award recipients. These amazing women have contributed to our city and our state professionally and personally, and have served as mentors to many, including myself. I commend you all for rightfully choosing to recognize these great Hoosiers. Congratulations to you both, and keep up the fantastic work.
On behalf of Indiana Landmarks, I convey hearty congratulations to Sallie Rowland and Cordelia Harris-Burks for being awarded the May Wright Sewall Leadership Award. In both recipients, the Propylaeum has chosen wisely. I've been asked and am honored to say a few words about Sallie Rowland for her decades of dedication to historic preservation and to Indiana landmarks. Sallie Rowland is a legendary trailblazer, not just for women, but especially for women in Indianapolis's business community and in the design profession. Her role in historic preservation is equally distinguished. As a champion and longtime member and past chair of the Indianapolis Historic Preservation Commission, she advanced reinvestment in countless properties in our historic neighborhoods, places we sometimes take for granted today. But Sallie led the way back in the years when the going was rough. The legacy of her leadership can be seen today in Indianapolis's vibrant and revitalized urban neighborhoods. Additionally, Sallie's leadership as a board member of Indiana Landmarks has had a tremendous and positive impact on our organization's work, most notably when she co-chaired the campaign that embraced the transformation of the former Central Avenue United Methodist Church into the Indiana Landmarks Center. For those of us who have been privileged to work with Sallie, we know when she pursues a vision, she means business. But with her hard-charging drive, she brings, and this is most important, she brings to the task at hand a palpable and infectious joy. That is a rare characteristic of true leadership. In 2017, Indiana Landmarks was honored to present to Sallie the Williamson Prize for Leadership in Historic Preservation. This evening, the Propylaeum's presentation of the May Wright Sewall Leadership Award to Sallie adds to the deserved recognition of her past and continued leadership. So to Sallie, from your friends at Indiana Landmarks, we send heartfelt congratulations and thanks for all you do for the greater good of our world. My compliments to the Propylaeum for honoring Sallie and Cordelia, two remarkable and richly deserving recipients of the May Wright Sewall Leadership Award.
It is my honor to introduce a woman that I have admired for many years for her leadership in business and in historic preservation. From the time Sallie graduated from Indiana University, she has been known as an innovator in interior design, for her role in historic preservation, and as a highly respected female entrepreneur. Throughout her career, she has combined her talent for design with a strong business acumen and still found time for trailblazing in service to her community. Sallie was the first woman to serve as the president of the Indianapolis Historic Preservation Commission. She was the first woman to serve as president of the Economic Club of Indianapolis. And she was the first woman to chair the United Way campaign for Central Indiana. Sallie has served on a long and prestigious list of boards, committees, and commissions, and often has been the first or only woman to do so. May Wright Sewall Award is presented to Hoosier women exuding the spirit of May Wright Sewall, who work tirelessly to advance women's leadership roles, personal improvement, and standing in the community. Sallie has demonstrated these leadership characteristics in a remarkable manner that I think would make May Wright Sewall proud. It is my honor to introduce Sallie Rowland.
Well, thank you. Thank you so much for this honor. When Marge had called me, she took me totally by surprise. And I must say, I'm certainly humbled to have been chosen. I think I kind of fail rather palely compared to what was accomplished by May Wright Sewall. As a matter of fact, I appreciated that you rehearsed so much of what, or repeated so much of what she had done, because I wanted to do that too. And I think it's wonderful that you have this award in her honor so that once again, we can appreciate all of her accomplishments. And I think we have no idea of how difficult that road was for her to travel. So here I am, a beneficiary of her gifts. I hope that I've accomplished a little bit along the way that have helped women as well to advance. I'm a Depression baby. I was born in Baltimore and raised in Maryland until my parents moved back to their roots, which was in Fort Wayne, in time for me to graduate from high school in 1950. Career choices for women, you know what they were. My parents were bound and determined I was going to college, but it was a nurse or a teacher, and if you were lucky, maybe you married some wealthy guy. But my mother recognized that I was not well suited to any of those and proceeded to see how she could help me find a direction that a woman could make a good living, take care of herself, and enjoy the journey. We discovered, or she discovered by reading the one ads in the Baltimore Sun, that a woman could make a good living as a buyer in a department store. And that's when the department stores, Ayers and Hutzler's and all of those were grand places. And thus, I graduated from the IU School of Business in merchandising in 1954 with a minor in design, which is all you could get at IU at the time. But I have to tell you, I was in the right place at the right time. I took a position when I graduated with Business Furniture Company here in Indianapolis, designing office interiors. And I'm here to tell you that nobody ever heard of buying office interiors or designing office interiors. It was a brand new field. And in that company, I held the title Vice President of Design, and we grew the department. But I also learned a lot about management and about customer relationships and how to sell ideas as well as product. And it was a wonderful experience. But after 10 years at BFC, I decided I wanted to go out on my own. Women were not supposed to go out on their own and start their own business. But I have to tell you, I had a husband who actually encouraged me. And you got to understand that out of my generation, how unusual that was. But in addition to that, I also had 2 healthy boys, and I had the support at home that I needed to be confident that they were safe and in good hands. I wanted to design spaces other than offices too. And I also had a different vision as to how the business should be. When I was at Business Furniture Company, as a designer, you were there to supplement the sale of products, desks, of course, and you recommended what that company could provide. But over those years, I discovered that a lot of what the clients needed, they couldn't get there. Sometimes they didn't even need furniture. They just needed to better design the use of the space, change the lighting, change the color. And so I really felt that there was a market to just sell good design. And that's the way Rowland Design was established and still is. I felt it was a conflict of interest to just be able to offer a client what I could get for them rather than necessarily what they needed. And so in the way we did this, we had to have a knowledge of the greater market. But when we put things out for bid, the client was then getting them at the lowest possible price and at the quality that they should have. And we in turn were paid for the time that we spent in the design. So it worked. We were very successful. Didn't really have any long range goals. I've never been very good at setting goals. My one has always been to do the next job better than you did the last one. And the business is doing very well without me. It is still being, president is still a woman. We are a woman-owned business from the beginning and still so. I need to be sure that you know that I had many mentors along the way who helped me, and many of them were men. This started with my early client, Bud Hunter, who was a bank president, and he was my banker. And he was forever in my camp, and by my side with every banking need I ever had. And you have to understand that that's a huge hurdle that women my generation had a terrible time. I didn't have to go over it, but I knew what a struggle it was for many of them. I've had the opportunity for community involvement, and a big one, of course, being named to the Indianapolis Historic Preservation Commission under Hudnut. Scotty Bennett, a friend who was on the Hudnut administration, named me to that. So here's another woman helping a woman. And as my dear friend Marsh Davis so nicely exaggerated what I have done in the preservation field, I do have to say that if you look at your life and what did you do that you really can be proud of, it is historic preservation. I was on the commission when the bulldozer mentality was running amok. They just wanted to tear down everything. We saved the Circle Theater, the Union Station, and designated about 5 historic districts, which I to this day feel was the nucleus for downtown residential rebirth. And as Marsh said, I'm still active on Landmarks Foundation, which is a statewide organization. And I have to say that I think the opportunity as president of IHPC provided a menu where I was viewed as a fair and competent woman. And that may have led to corporate and community board invitations. It's true, I was too often the first woman and very often the only woman on several of the corporate boards, as well as community organizations. And one of them was the Corporate Community Council, which was an Indianapolis-based economic development organization that was composed of the leading businesses in Indianapolis. And one day, out of the blue, Ben Lytle, who was president, said, "Sallie, we'd like to look at a different way of doing economic development. And if you had a clean page, how would you do it?" And I go, "Ben, that's kind of over my head." But he didn't seem to think it was. And so with the cooperation and support of Clay Robbins and Larry O'Connor, we pursued what needed to be done to change economic development. And that resulted in the formation of the Central Indiana Corporate Partnership, the CICP. It's just huge. It's been so successful that honestly, I have to pinch myself to think that I had something to do with getting it established. But that's one of those landmark things that you perhaps can leave behind as something that you accomplished. I was on several corporate boards, even at the same time, that woman on there. It also gave me opportunities to get women promoted to more responsible positions and to participate as a board member that encouraged the men to open the board positions to more women. Maybe I wasn't all that scary. I have to admit many times I would ask a question if I didn't really understand it, what was being proposed, and only to find that the guys around the table didn't really understand it either. One of the important first that I enjoyed that I'd like to mention to you was as the Economic Club president. Back then, the president of the Economic Club could name the people to the head table, which was a conspicuous part of the whole thing. Gordon St. Angelo was the program chairman, and we had a lineup of people for the Economic Club that year that you just couldn't believe. And one of them was Jean Kirkpatrick, who at the time was the ambassador of the US to the UN. And so when she was the speaker, I determined we're going to have the head table, all women, which it was. And I have to tell you, it was the first time, and regrettably, I guess, the only time that happened, but I thought it was a wonderful opportunity to show the community what responsible and exciting women we had leading businesses in Indianapolis. And there were a number of other opportunities that were sort of adventures. I wasn't sure what I was getting into, but in fact, were opportunities for me to learn. I'm proud to say that many of the women have followed me, and I just hope that my behavior and performance in the various venues have made it easier for my sisters to participate and prosper. And I thank you very much for including me.
Good evening. Thank you for joining me tonight as we honor Cordelia Lewis-Burks. Cordelia was born the oldest of 5 children. Her father was a coal miner in West Virginia and a Baptist minister. When Cordelia was only 11 years old, her mother passed, and it fell to Cordelia to raise her 4 younger siblings, to keep the house, and to maintain her status as an honor roll student. Cordelia, through the course of her life, has worn many hats. She's been wife, mother, and, a very little known fact, Chicago fashion model. When she returned to Indiana, she worked as an LPN in the nursing department at Central State Hospital. She was only there for 4 years before they moved her over to administration to help oversee 4 different departments all at the same time. She then next went to work as the first woman of color as a political lobbyist for the Indiana State AFL-CIO. She then went to work at Teamsters Local 125 as a business agent, working with 25 men. While working at Local 135, the Evan Bayh gubernatorial campaign asked that Cordelia be released to work on the campaign with them, and that happened. After Governor Bayh won the election, Cordelia then became the political director for AFSCME International, a position she held for 16 years. During that time, she traveled across the country working on various campaigns, was even in Florida during the Bush versus Gore challenge. In 2006, she was assigned to work for the campaign of a relative unknown candidate, Barack Obama, in his first run for Senate. In 2008, she organized 3,000 Indiana women to hit the campaign trail for Obama. And then she was the first Democratic superdelegate in the country to commit to Obama for president. In 2005, Cordelia was elected the vice chair of the Indiana Democratic Party, and she just retired this year. President Joe Biden honored her service, writing to her, "You are a leader and trailblazer. Your legacy will serve as a blueprint, especially for young women of color." While retired from her positions, Cordelia is never going to retire from the fight. She has marched with A. Philip Randolph, John Lewis, Martin Luther King, and Dorothy Height, to name but a few. As Cordelia has often observed, the one day of the year when all people are truly equal is Election Day, because on that day, regardless of race, ethnicity, sex, party, or socioeconomic status, everyone has one vote to make their voice heard. I could go on and on and on about the various honors and accomplishments of Cordelia Lewis-Burks. She has been awarded the Rosa Parks Trailblazer Award, the Rosa Parks Award, the Sojourner Truth Award, and she has even more accomplishments, ranging from serving as a member of the board of directors to the Children's Museum, to serving on the Indianapolis Police Civilian Merit Board, to serving as a member of the Democratic National Committee, to serving on the Marion County Judicial Selection Commission. But I only have 3 minutes, so let me just say, Cordelia is a shining example for those who follow her. It is my privilege to introduce to you my dear friend, my mentor, and my hero, Cordelia Lewis-Burks.
Thank you, Karen, for your introduction. And a thank you to my hostess, Jackie Needis, to the women of the Propylium for your nomination as one of your recipients. And by the way, I'd like to congratulate Sallie as well. In March, when I was notified, I recalled I was driving home from a monthly luncheon of the Indiana Democratic Party. I pulled over to the side of Illinois Street to read the text message. I sat there, and for a moment I said, why me? I came home to research your mission, and I researched May Wright Sewall. My, what a woman. What a fighter she was for women's rights, a leader in the suffrage movement. And then I recalled my efforts to ensure the right to vote for African Americans as a member of the NAACP. I registered voters at the city parks, at Victory Field, and then to the food stamp office and the welfare office on Meridian Street. Yes, I was allowed to set up a table at Central State Hospital to register employees so they could vote. And it was kind of funny one day. A group of the hospital employees came to my table in the cafeteria and presented me with a t-shirt which said, "A woman's place is in the House and the Senate." All the employees, including my nursing director, stood and applauded. When the Ethel Randolph Institute internship was offered to me, it was really difficult for me to leave Central State Hospital after 20 years. I loved serving and caring for those patients. Accepting the internship with the Indiana State AFL-CIO as the first African-American staff rep allowed me to soar, which meant working all over the state as well as in the legislature as a lobbyist. What an experience. Getting to know members of the Indiana General Assembly, studying how a bill became law, meeting and working with other lobbyists like Nancy Pappas, who is still my dear friend today. There were few women in the lobby when I began. Let's see, there was Jatrice Gator, who worked for the United Way. There was Laura Arnold, who worked for the city of Fort Wayne. And later came Betty Wilson, who was my colleague at the AFL-CIO. I also learned that lobbyist was not a dirty word. I was one. In 1996, when I came back from Washington, D.C., the lobby had been taken over by women, and what a good thing. I remember an elderly gentleman who was the lobbyist for the Indiana building trades, was sitting on the third floor by the elevator, and he called me over to sit beside him. And when he finished teaching me about being a lobbyist, he said, "You must remember, you need both sides of the aisle to get your agenda to become law." I never forgot that, and I never forgot Mr. Brubeck. No, I did not get collective bargaining pass for the state employees who would have been members of my union, AFSCME, the greatest public service union in the country. But I was then able to help then Representative Julia Carson, help her pass her bill to ensure that women who were domestic workers would be able to get Social Security. That was a milestone for them, and it was for all of the women in the lobby. And yes, as a member of a group of Democratic and Republican women, we worked together across the state for the passage of the Equal Rights Amendment. We were joyful that night when Senator Wayne Townsend came rushing into the Senate chamber to cast the passing vote for the Equal Rights Amendment in the state of Indiana. And you know, there was celebrating in the halls that night. I recall when working for the Teamsters, returning to the office from a meeting and was in the ladies' room. One of the female clerical workers came in and looked at me up and down and said sarcastically, "So you can wear pants." I asked, "What do you mean?" And she replied, "Well, clerical women can't wear pants." And I looked at her and I said, "If you can't, I won't." And I didn't. Having been hired by AFSCME provided an opportunity of a lifetime, being assigned all over the country to work in campaigns and to train members of our unions about issues which benefited working families. And it has been astonishing to work to get great women elected across the country. Ryan McLean, the first African-American and female to be elected mayor of Dayton, Ohio. And yes, Amy Klobuchar, the woman from Minnesota whose prosecutor's campaign that I worked in. And Debbie Stabenow, a US Senator in Michigan, to name a few. And yes, some men as well, not just women. I was assigned to work in Chicago in the US Senate campaign of the first African-American female senator from the state of Illinois, Carolyn Mosley Braun. And in the US Senate for the campaign of Barack Obama when he ran for US Senate, and President William Clinton. I remember getting the call from my president in Washington, said, "You will open up Bill Clinton's offices in Indiana." So I proceeded to do so. And one of the greatest experiences of my life was working with Mrs. Dorothy Height, who was the head of the Negro Council of Negro Women. She worked tirelessly for equality of women. You know, growing up motherless, but as a preacher's kid, taught me the definition of empathy, which to me is understanding what is happening to others, wanting to make a difference. That is what my father and my union taught me. I will continue and remember that I stand on the shoulders of many, like May Wright Sewall, a woman who fought for the right of women to vote. As she, I will continue to champion the equality and equity on behalf of women. I will continue to urge women to use critical thinking when voting and to fight against voter suppression, which is being enacted in 28 states as we speak, including the state of Indiana. I wonder what May Wright Sewall will do now. I, like Texas Senator Carol Alvarado, who last week filibustered for 15 hours against voter suppression laws in Texas, I ask you here tonight to fight with me against voter suppression here in Indiana. When appointed to a position, I am proud to say, I left the door open for women to walk through. I thank you for this acknowledgement. I am humbled to accept this award. Be assured, I accept it recognizing the contributions of women, of the woman whose name it is affixed to. And as Joseph Wiley, the Danish-born reformer, said, when nothing else seems to help, I think of the stonecutter hammering away at his rock, perhaps 100 times without as much as a crack. Yet at the 101st blow, it split in two, and I know it was not that blow that did it, but all of the blows that had gone before. I have struck not all of the 100 blows myself. I start where the last woman left off. Women such as Julia Carson, Judy O'Bannon, Virginia Blankenblaker, Linda Lawson, Benita Becker, Senator Vi Simpson, and yes, Faye Williams and Senator Earlene Rogers. Yes, and you and your leadership, who have given of themselves to make our communities and our state a better place. My contributions have just been an add-on. My continued goal is to eradicate all kinds of voter suppression so that all citizens who are registered to vote will have at least an equal chance on election day. A year ago, I believed that, but change has been enacted and will prove not true in 2022. I accept this award on behalf of all the May Wright Sewalls of this country who have given of their time and contributions to prepare the path. I thank you.
Thank you very much. Appreciate both of your words. One quick story, I think that shows the spirit of both these women. May Wright Sewall was asked to sign a temperance document by Governor David Wallace's wife, and she started to prepare to sign it, but in the document, it indicated that those who signed intended not to clamor for any additional civil or political rights. And May Wright Sewall threw the document down saying, but I do clamor. Both these women have clamored. And then she went on to work with the people that wanted her to sign her rights away and figure out how to make things work. Both women have strength, they have vision, but they don't burn bridges. They know how to make it work and see the best in others, even when they disagree. And they both have made life better for everyone, have made Indiana a better place. And I thank you both very much. And it's just such an honor for me to be able to recognize you tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you, Ronnie. We're going to just let everybody, you can unmute yourself for a minute and let's give these women a big round of applause. So. It's really difficult to follow you women. I'm a little intimidated, I will say that. Thank you so much. You're both so deserving of the award, and we appreciate your being here, and we appreciate your candor. We're going to take a few questions from the audience. So if you have questions, if you want to type them in the bottom, I have a couple here, and I've seen a couple come in. So I want to go ahead and start. This one, Sallie, Jim Glass wanted to know, could you tell about your trailblazing efforts to put your business in an historic building on College?
Oh. Well, that's interesting. Yes, I'd forgotten about that. We bought a building in Lockerbie that had been a grocery store, and I think Ayers drapery department had been in there at one point in time. And interestingly enough, it turns out that we were the first organization to purchase a historic building and remodel it as a commercial enterprise in downtown Indianapolis. It's hard to believe that, but it apparently was true. It's in Lockerbie. We've moved on to others since then, restoring them along the way. And I didn't realize we were blazing quite such a trail at the time that we did it.
Thank you. Ramona Smedley asked, Cordelia, and I think this is a good question for both of you. Cordelia, what would you tell your younger self? Or what did you tell your younger self?
I told my younger self that I was going to college to be an elementary school teacher. I did teach for a while in Louisiana, but soon found out that there were other things. I went to Chicago, and walking out of Saks Fifth Avenue, the buyer stopped me and chatted, and soon I was meeting with her to model her merchandise, or the store's merchandise, at churches and sorority events and so on. Then I married someone from Indiana and became pregnant with the son, and we moved back here, and the rest is history.
Okay, so you have these wonderful, you've had these wonderful careers, so influential. What's next? What are you going to do next? I'm going to ask you first, Cordelia, and then I'm going to ask you, Sallie. What's next?
I'm going to fight these voter suppression laws all over the country. Yay. I still have credibility with my union, and I have no doubt that my International Union President, Lee Saunders, will allow me to travel wherever my services are needed. The right to vote is very, very precious. And I will speak out, because John Lewis said, when you see something wrong, speak out. And I have no problem in doing that. My father always taught me, it is not what they think of you, but what you think of them. So there I am.
Okay. Sallie, what's next for you?
Well, of course, I'm at this advanced age, and it seems like the health has something to do with what you do, but I am very much involved in the Millersville neighborhood, Millersville at Fall Creek. And that's been an interesting experience because it was a neighborhood commercial district that just went flat. Amelia's went under and everything went with it. And so what we've been working to do there is to revitalize this inner city neighborhood so that it's a healthy place to live, that people want to stay there. They're not all moving to Hamilton County. And I think it's important for the city's health that we do what we can to maintain these wonderful neighborhoods, and Millersville is one of them. And so that, along with the other members of that board, are doing.
There are so many really nice comments at the side for both of you, and we'll be sure and print those out and send those to you so that you have them. One more question for each of you. What's the best advice that you received, and what would you pass on? What's the best advice that you could give women today?
For me, I think the country, if led by women, we would be better off. I've tried to exhibit that, not only in my life, but in helping to get women elected to office.
Well, I really think it's important that the young women today understand that they need to develop themselves so that they can take care of themselves.
Absolutely.
One of the awards I received some time ago was the Touchstone Award, which is dealing with girls as they grow up. And I said at the time, there's a shortage of men valiant knights in white horses. They just don't seem to be around much anymore. And I think it would do well for you to take care of yourself. And I think that's really important. It's the best insurance you can have. You never know what's going to happen along the way. And so that's probably a point that I've emphasized as the opportunities presented itself.
Thank you. Mary Ann Glick said, we would definitely be better off if we were led by women. So I think we agree with that, yeah. And that is something that May Wright Sewall firmly believed in. She believed that if women around the world had the right to vote, we could end war and have world peace. So we're still working on it. If there are any other questions, if you want to just pass those on really quickly. Otherwise,
I have a comment for Sallie.
Yes, ma'am. Yes.
Sallie, you would be pleased to know I also sit on the board of directors of the Near North Development Corporation. I'm interested in what happens in my neighborhood.
Yeah, right. Very important.
And thank you for your contributions in that effort.
Thank you both so much. What an inspiring evening, honestly. It's so touching. I don't feel, again, like I said, I'm a little bit intimidated talking with both of you. I would like to thank some of our sponsors this evening. I would like to thank Veronica Embry and Tom Burns, Peg Kennedy, the Indiana Democratic House Women, the Indiana Democratic Senate, Joanne and Jerry Solomon, the Indiana State Building and Construction Trades Council, Roland Design, Rose Wernicke, and Marjorie and James Kinley. You'll see Lori Ann has included a link to our printed program. It's a PDF of that if you'd like to take a look at that. There are a lot more supporters in there. We had a lot of women and a lot of families that were Sewall supporters, as well as a lot of organizations that were organizational supporters. And you're going to want to take a look at that list because it is a very long list of really great organizations. Thank you all again. Thank you, Cordelia, for everything that you do. Thank you so much, Sallie, for everything that you do. We really appreciate the contributions that you've made to Indianapolis and in the world. So thank you. Have a great evening.